Driving in the rain can be quite difficult, and in this video I'll try to make it as simple as possible. I know some of you are really struggling to drive in the rain, so I made a quick list of the things that we are gonna discuss in the video. First, we'll explain which set of tires to take depending on the conditions on the track, which again is gonna be followed by the changing conditions on the circuit, and we will try to detect the track conditions. So it's gonna be again the last but not least the change of approach and a change of driving lines. So we'll go through each and every single one of these sections and try to make it as simple as possible. So we will start with a set of tires and exactly explain which set of tires you need to use in the rain. So if the bar does not go over 1/3, you can stay on slick tires and you can eventually use those medium, softs or hards or pretty much whatever you need to use. You can simply use the normal racing line and you can, well, I think you can drive like you normally would in normal dry conditions. But the things change quite a bit when the bar exceeds 1/3, and it's when that, well, I'm gonna call it middle territory, where we just don't know what exactly to do if the weather is going to change, or, well, what to do then. Well, I do suggest keeping the car on the track as much as possible if you don't see the track conditions changing as much. Well, if you see the bar filling up from 1/3 to 2/3, then you will need the intermediate tires. In general, when the bar fills from 1/3 to 2/3, I think it's quite recommended to use the intermediate tires. And even sometimes well, I'm going to say in most conditions, I do advise taking the intermediates. And I do suggest taking the wet tires only when you see the bar going more than 2/3 and upwards. Otherwise, it's not really recommended, because later when the track starts drying out, you will eventually lose a lot of times and you will destroy the wet tires. Intermediates can be good and they are recommended once in changing conditions, and they're definitely recommended in GT. And of course, wet tires, I mean, you can use them, but eventually when the track starts to dry out, you will start losing performance and you will start losing, well, you will actually start to lose a lot of time per lap, maybe sometimes even a second and a half. So they are the last option I think you can go with. But again, track conditions are changing, but what now? So you can always look at the map in the intro screen of each race, and especially on the online race. So you can exactly see where the rain is coming from and when exactly it's going to hit the track. Of course, this is just an estimate, but you can give yourself a little, well, you can give yourself an idea on what exactly you should be expecting in the next 20 to 30 minutes, which is usually a good idea. Of course, you can go check out the map, and the map is going to give you a better idea of what's going on in the race. I do like to check the dynamics of the weather changes, because usually it gives me a good idea on what to expect, because I'm not going to put the wet tires if I see there is no dark spots. I'm only going to use the intermediates, or I might change the strategy completely and I might even stick to the slick tires. So it's all about the weather dynamics, and, well, it always depends on the wind on the circuit. I think a really good example was turn 1 at Fuji. I was in quite an exciting race, and then I realized that the conditions are getting much worse than I expected. And then when we reached the 150 meter mark, I usually brake in just in between the 100 and the 150, just about 125. And then when I hit the braking point, I realized that the car wasn't stopping, so the conditions were definitely getting a lot worse. And then in the end, this is when I decided to change my tires. So I know a lot of guys did not change their tires, and I was the only one from the top 3 that actually decided to change the tires. Because then I watched the map in the bottom section of my screen and I realized that the conditions are gonna hit the first turn really quickly. And then again, I will probably not be able to stop the car. So you can always check the map and see, okay, what are the conditions now are gonna be in turn 1? And looking at the map is gonna make this process a lot more simple. So my suggestion always is zoom in the map to see exactly which part of the circuit is gonna get hit by the rain first. And of course, you can make your decision according to that. And then I realized that the turn 1 is going to get hit by the rain just in about a couple of minutes. I decided to change the tires to intermediates, and I think I've done an interesting job. And of course, if you would like to know more about racing and driving in general, you can always go check out my online course down in the description. In the online course, we go into detail of what exactly you need to know to become a better driver. So of course, there is a guarantee: go faster or get a full refund. So if you don't get better, you will get get a refund. Once again, it's going to be down in the description. And now we're going to be discussing the changing racing lines and changing approach in the wet conditions. Of course, if it's not raining much, or if it's going just about 1/3 or maybe a little bit more, you can use your normal racing lines and you don't really have to think about changing the approach that much. You can use your normal braking point and it's really not going to change much. And of course, you can use the slick tires. If you decide to change the tires to the intermediates and the bar is just about 1/3, you will most likely burn those intermediates before they start making a huge impact. So again, I would definitely wait until the bar goes more than 1/3 and then you can decide to change the tires or not. Or if you see the rain is coming down, you can of course change it a little bit before. And again, if you see the bar going from 1/3 to 2/3, then we have a problem, because now we're kind of in the middle stages of the rain and we don't know exactly when the line is going to change. But I found that actually the racing line does not change as much until we reach 50% of the bar. I would suggest changing the lines a little bit if you can, or braking slightly sooner than usual. So in general, it's not gonna play such a huge role. So if the bar is just about at 50%, you don't have to worry if you're on the intermediates. But again, if the bar goes over 50% and you're in just about 50% to about 66%, which is just about 2/3, then you completely need to change your approach and you completely need to change your racing lines. I even had a look at some of the best guys in the world do their own thing, and well, I realized that I just wasn't using the right approach, and these are the things that you need to follow. So basically what I found out was that you mostly need to brake in the straight line. So if we have a look at turn 1 and even some of the turns on the track, you will be able to see that none of the best guys in the world are trail braking. So they're basically stopping the car in the straight line, and then when they stop the car, they maybe do a little bit of trail braking, but it's definitely not much. So just try to brake in the straight line and avoid trail braking. And how you will actually get the rotation of the car. So you can change the direction abruptly instead of just taking it very, very smoothly in the rain. And this is something that I found in this game that it actually works. So abrupt change of direction and then acceleration to rotate the car. And if you're not comfortable enough with driving without TC in the rain, I do suggest using TC at 2. So in general, if you want to be quick in the rain, you have to simply drive in the straight line, stop the car, use the acceleration to rotate the car, and then gradually apply the power. I know this part is extremely difficult to do, and I know it's one of those things that you simply have to master, and I know it's only for a very, very high level of drivers, and maybe just about 10 to 20 people in the world can do this, maybe more, but it's a very small group of players that can actually do something like this. So those abrupt changes of direction, braking in the straight line, finding the lines that are, well, not used in normal conditions can eventually help you. So this is something that I also try to implement, and that's not using the dry lines in the wet conditions. Because why? When the rubber builds up on the track and the rain goes down, that part of the track actually becomes even more slippery, just because we laid more rubber onto the track. And this is something that is very well implemented in Gran Turismo. So of course, you need to avoid the normal dry line, and this will eventually make you better, because now you're not using the slippery part of the track, you're actually using the less slippery part of the track, which is, again, on the outside of the usual lines. So this is why you can see some of the guys braking in the middle of the track rather than on the left side of the track in turn 1. And this is something that I really wanted to focus on. I really wanted to tell you that you need to absolutely avoid the normal dry line in the wet conditions to get even more grip. And this was actually one of the examples that I had. Actually going a lot wider into this sweeping right-hander at Fuji gave me so much more acceleration that I can actually overtake on the outside line now. So the main line, or the dry line, was very, very slippery in wet conditions. So I decided to take the outside line, and it definitely worked. So I would suggest taking the outside lines is going to make a pretty significant impact on the overall speed of that turn. And then eventually you will be quicker through that whole section. And of course, combining that with braking in the straight line, not using a lot of trail braking, and of course, accelerating gradually and gradually accelerating in the straight line, this will massively help to build up the pace in the rain. So again, to sum it up, these are the things that you should know. Of course, brake more in the straight line and don't trail brake as much. Avoid the dry line as much as you possibly can. And then again, try turning the wheel faster. And while you're turning the wheel faster, try to bring the car in the straight line as soon as possible. And then when the car is in the straight line, you can start applying the power, but gradually. And of course, you can use the higher gears to eventually stop the tires from spinning, which is again a good tip. And then in the end, I found that ABS at default is a much better option in the rain. In some conditions, with some of the tracks, and of course with some of the cars, weak is better. But in the rain, default is the one that you need to pick. And in the end, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed in this video. And if you would like to know more about braking in Gran Turismo, you can go check out my next video, which is going to be down in the description as well as in one of these corners. So again, thank you very much for watching this video, and you can consider liking and subscribing to the channel as well. So once again, thank you very much, and bye.